Oh yeah. So here's something I want to talk about. Is how you can't really teach. Okay, starting with this. Trauma can be good. It can help you strategically think about how not to have it again. And you're learning from it. For example, if somebody had trauma when they were younger and they got bullied when they were younger, they know how to deal with it when they're older. However, if you just had a good life if you just had it well your entire life, it's hard to fight for anything. And then, yeah, that's hard to teach a new dog old tricks. Old dog, new tricks, not that. Also, trauma, we care so much about, if you just go on the internet and unless you're like a baby, we care so much about things that are harmful to us, and we don't focus on anything good. That's why we consume shit about serial killers when we love it. And I know that sounds kind of radical itself, but if you really think deep about it, it can make some sense. Trauma in itself you should have some amount of trauma. Too much of trauma can can take away your soul, or you don't really have anything. But just a little bit of trauma, a little bit of competitiveness, that can go good in the long run. Now, I want to be stupidly competitive, like my brother. My brother wants to fight me on everything. He hates my guts, and I try to love him. Why I'm doing that? But trauma can indeed teach you lessons that you would have never learned without it. And some idiots think that all trauma is good. No, there's definitely a curve. Too much trauma is bad, but a little bit of trauma can teach you lessons in the long run. Another thing is that's about it. Too much trauma is bad. A little bit of trauma is good. It teaches you to be a man and to have your own backbone and your own autonomy. Good example of that is The Sopranos. We see Tony be a real man and to have real masculinity. And however, with his son, he doesn't want his son to have the same. He has too much. So he gives his son too much things, and he makes his son not have as much trauma as he did. However, that sort of made his son weaker. It's good with a balance. Tony was too strong and his son, AJ Soprano, was too weak. Sopranos is a good lesson. Because he had everything handed over to him. He gone to no fights. And then when something really big were to happen, like his son's almost death, he acts without masculinity is where you have thoughts about stuff, like where you have genuine rationality. He wasn't thinking rational, he was thinking too feminine, and he wasn't able to rationalize that if he killed Junior Soprano, the guy who tried to assassinate him, then he would go to jail for life. Tony, on the other hand, had trauma, and that trauma gave him some rationale too. But yeah, too much trauma is bad though. Good example of somebody with too much trauma is probably Junior, where Junior has no empathy whatsoever. No, not Junior. I can't think of any right now. But there's some people with too much. Oh, Jesse Pinkman from Breaking Bad. That is a good example of somebody with too much trauma, where he had some trauma at first, but then he couldn't fight back against it because it was too overwhelming. And also because he was too old to have that much trauma. I bet if he was younger, it would have been a different situation. Now Walter White, saying that Walter White, something like Walter White usually does not exist. I think he was exaggerated greatly throughout the show, because most people don't become a drug kingpin at the age of 52 without having any years of experience. That usually does not happen, and if it does, it's rare. So it's my decision.